Welcome in to a special Sunday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show. As always, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet. Lots to get to here in a full house. Noah is here. Jack is here. Lizzie is here.
Feels like AA.
After it does.
Just talking our feelings out.
Everybody's just venting.
It does. It feels like an anonymous meeting. Hop inside of the bunker. If you want to share your feelings, the pillow is in your hand.
You have the speaking stick.
Oh, God.
Hi, Anonymous. It's nice to see you.
It's been 0 days since my last drink.
We're going to talk about all of it. We're going to talk to BJ Ojulari. We're going to talk to Kayshon Boutte coming up here before we get out of here at 9 o'clock this morning. 9 o'clock tonight. We'll be back with you at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Remember, always, Go Chevrolet, GEAUX, Chevrolet.com. Here's real quick. We're going to get into some things. Obviously, we're going to give you our thoughts. We're going to give you our opinions. We're going to talk about last night. We're going to talk about the blunders. We're going to talk about potentially what is next. We are not going to talk about that with Kayshon and BJ. So if anybody has any feelings towards that, or if that's a letdown for anybody, sorry, but it ain't happening. We're not starting a mutiny from the Jordy Culotta Show here with the players on the team. We'll ask them about how tough the loss was. We'll ask them what this week's going to be like. We'll ask them what the locker room's like, but we're not going to ask them anything about the stuff that's happening outside of that locker room, and there is a ton of noise and smoke. We'll ask them if they hear it, and they're staying focused and ready, but we're not getting into any discussions about coaches and stability and what's going on. So just not going to do it. It's just not the way that we're going to handle our relationships with these guys. This is something that they and this show are doing in partnership, and we are not trying to hold their feet to the fire on anything that's happening outside of their control. They don't want to be losing. They don't want their coach to be making some of these decisions. They don't want the instability around the life of LSU football right now. So, we're not getting into that with BJ. We're not getting into that with Kayshon. They both played really good games last night. We'll ask BJ what it was like in trying to bring Bo Nix down, because Bo Nix was the best player on the field last night, and it was crazy because going into the game, you didn't know whether or not he was going to start. Once he got that start last night, it was a little bit of adversity early on, and then he made a play on a 4th and 2 that you'll probably see for the rest of the season. I think it was SportsCenter's number 1 play. It should have been number 1 if it wasn't number 1. That was Jake Fromm's brother who caught that pass on that touchdown. But you got to credit Bo Nix last night for the way that he played. That was extraordinary football. I mean, that was kind of an out of body experience. You could tell for him. I mean, that was something that he's rarely raised his game to those heights. I think that's the best game he's ever played in college.
It's up there with last year's.
I mean,
kills LSU back-to-back years.
He was.
Let's look at his stuff.
It was crazy how many plays he was making at the opportune times, and it was just wild to see what he was really kind of pulling out of his ass last night. But you can't really say. He threw the ball 44 times and they won. I mean, if I'd have told you yesterday morning that Bo Nix is going to throw the ball 44 times, that means at LSU, you feel like they're probably going to be running away with it, and he's throwing it so much trying to catch up. I mean, more surprising was that Tank Bigsby had 12 carries. I mean, everybody was saying Bigsby's going to kill you. Put the ball in Nix's hand. If you want to win it, that's how you win the game. That happened, and LSU got beat, and LSU's got nobody to blame but themselves. Nobody can look at last night's game and say overwhelmingly that Auburn was the better team. Yeah, they won the score, and I'm not trying to make any excuses, but if you watch that game for the full 60 minutes, you really came away saying that LSU's better than them in a lot of positions. I mean, they feel like they're better than them at a lot of spots. I mean, they dominated that game early on. They're up by 9 going into the 4th quarter.
21. That'd be
yes.
14. 17, anything other than 4 field goals, and that game's a win.
So, I mean, the timeouts, the blown timeouts last night, the delays of game, the inability of getting the play in. I mean, I said it last night. I'll say it after we get off the air with BJ here. That felt like Les Miles. I mean, it really did. It felt worse. than Les Miles. I don't remember ever Les Miles after a kickoff burning a timeout. I mean, it just mind-blowing, elementary unorganization, and the sideline looks out of whack. It's just it feels like a ship that is heading in the wrong direction.
I
It
have
feels
to ask you
like
a question. Is there any other coach in college football that has someone on the sidelines to watch the clock for O?
yeah, George Munoz.
I mean, he watches it for O.
George Munoz runs the game for LSU.
Does any other big-time coach have that?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'd imagine that there's a lot of people out there that have that. But what it shows you is how little of organization and control Ojulari really has over his team. I mean, for him over the last 1 month, every Monday has told you, the public, that they are working on offensively, getting the play into the game with more time on the clock, getting to the line of scrimmage, making the calls, and getting the snap off with clearly enough time to get it in. He's been telling you that for the last month, scratching his head, huffing and puffing into the microphone, doing all his coach speak stuff, but saying that they were going to get that right. And here they are in the first home SEC game where it looks like they've gone backwards. It looks like they've gotten worse. It looks like this has actually regressed over the last month rather than progressed and gotten any better. I mean, it doesn't look as if this is any close to cleaning up, and some of the situations in which this happens is maddening to the fans. It has to be just crippling to a football team. The morale, the energy, the emotion, just the time on that 4th and 1 last night inside of Auburn's goal line, inside of the 5 of Auburn, where you got a chance to put something on the board and you call a timeout because you can't get the play in, come out of that timeout and jump off sides, was the lowest point of a season filled with blunders and low points. I mean, it was almost, there were some diehards sitting next to Kelly and I last night where we were, I'm telling you, 10th degree LSU fan, have had the worst Sunday in a long time today. I mean, just ruined their day. They were laughing at that. It was great, like, you know, theater in the sense of saying, this is comical. This is hysterical.
Theater of the mind.
In the disorganization of where LSU is in their first home game after realizing what their flaws were. Like, they've known that they can't get the play in on time for a month now. And here they are in the first home game in conference, and it looks like it's gotten worse. It really does. It looks like it's actually gotten worse, and the times that it strikes and bites you is the absolute worst. And all you see is a shot on the sideline of the head coach, mother bleeping everybody into the microphone, wanting to throw his little temper tantrum, and having really no control over his football team. Really. I mean, he's got zero control over his team.
He's got 6 control. It's timeouts, and he used them all.
Mm-hmm. Oh, fast.
Yeah.
I mean, he blew 4 of 6 timeouts last night.
Yeah.
He was
just
coaching a basketball game.
pissed them away. Just
get 30.
burned them. Like, really, if you've got a timeout at the end of the game, you could potentially get the ball back and try and have a chance to win the game. Like, I mean, all of that stuff is lost. All of that stuff is, like, way in the wake of just the debacle of that loss. I mean, because at the end of it, at the baseline of it, I mean, just really, I mean, 2 bad football teams.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it just. Oof.
As much as LSU tried to give that game away, Auburn did the exact same thing. Like, they had no business coming into Tiger Stadium. Everything that Tiger Stadium is and that night game had worked in your advantage. You had a missed field goal. You had multiple drops. You had them looking confused on offense. Like, everything that was supposed to work out in LSU's favor in terms of having a home game was there, and LSU pissed down its leg. Like, they got more intimidated by the moment than Auburn did at some points, where it was like, what is LSU doing here?
There had to be 10 Auburn drops.
Yeah, like every
hands.
Right.
The only thing that ever happened was Bo Nix making a play. Other than that, the defense I thought played well.
Yeah,
like
stop the run. They played the run great, and that was the big thing heading in was are they going to be able to stop Bigsby and what was the other one? Hunter.
Chuck Hunter.
Yeah, the freshman who was
stud, man.
But
they made Auburn play LSU's
Right.
game. They made them have to like almost compete in terms of like they turned it into a track meet,
Right.
and then LSU didn't want to run anymore.
What's the problem?
It's just maddening.
Was it the play call? Did they look for the perfect call? I mean, they haven't matched it too
I
much.
guess
They stopped
because
doing that, I thought.
that's how it's been explained, but it's also been said that they have tried to get rid of that. Like they've tried
Right.
to, just call the play, get the play in, and run the play. But still, even you could see the frustration on Johnson last night, looking to the sideline, like saying to the sideline, like, let's go.
Right.
Let's go, man. Get this stuff in. What are we doing?
It's
Yeah.
maddening.
Like, how can this thing be breaking down again so just lethally? I mean, it's unbelievable to see how unorganized LSU football is. I mean, it really is. I mean, to see their just chaotic energy that comes from everything
top down.
from the play calling
Everything matters.
to the body language on the sideline. Every single piece of LSU looks chaotic. Every single piece looks unorganized. And I mean, like Kayshon, we're going to talk to him, and how good is he? I mean, like,
good was
hey,
he?
And he touched the ball once in the
take
second
one
half.
off the field. He had 100 in the first quarter.
Right.
First place went for 54 yards.
And after that, you can't find him.
they can't get a play in.
Derek Mason, I mean, he had us grabbing straws in the second half. They dropped everyone back.
They
And
just did.
We're not going to run?
Auburn treated LSU like Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They knew that LSU cannot run the ball, and no matter how many people they were rushing 2 and 3 at a point, and still getting pressure on the quarterback.
Right.
You said they running back to block.
That's unbelievable that you have to where LSU has gone at this point, where they know you're going to throw it 50 times a game, and they know that they only have to rush 3 to be able to influence your passing game to that point, to where you can't get it to one of the best players in college football
Right.
more than once in the second half when he's trying to score a touchdown nearly every play.
Every play.
What, he has 9 touchdowns.
Fourth of his catches are touchdowns.
A fourth of his
You can't give
catches
him
are
the ball
touchdowns, and he can't get the ball.
because they drop people back. You can't
Does it-
figure that out.
It seems like this team has taken on the mindset of a head coach who is
Right.
scrambling a little bit, because when you look at the chaos just around everything, it's all disjointed, and that has to come from the top down. Like, the man who runs the ship has to present himself in a manner that everybody wants to fall in line with, and it looks like it's just broken from the top down, in my point. Like, the way this trickle down is just, it's untenable. Like, you can't live like this. You can't, everything around this football program is chaos. And it feels
crazy
like
too.
that.
It's
Like, you
crazy.
can
Yeah.
watch it happen. You're watching it happen when you're having to call multiple timeouts during, after you're kicking off. Like, this should never happen. This
crazy.
doesn't happen in high school.
Yeah, it's crazy.
How many times do you think he's I probably said 10 times. What are we doing?
What are we
He
doing?
did, yeah. You can see it. I mean,
Yeah.
Austin Griffin says, "Where is the hate for the coordinators? Your agenda against Ogeron is so obvious at this point."
Top down,
Austin, I would say that your agenda to take up for Ogeron is pretty obvious. Ogeron promised you, he promised the public, he promised the fan base of LSU is going to be his responsibility to bring in the best coordinator. So if you want me to condemn the coordinators, well, then really that starts with Ogeron, because that's his lifeline to being a good football coach. That's what he said it was going to be when he was introduced as the permanent head coach. He understood his liabilities, he understood his setbacks, and that was being able to run each side of the ball. So he knew he had to go get the brightest, clearest minds of guys that he had to bring in and really float his football life. He had to really put his football life into the coordinator's hands and say, hey, look, you control my destiny. I'm the one who's bringing you in and putting my life in your hands. Make sure that you can get the play in on time.
And the 2 coordinators he hires have never called plays before.
So if you want me to go in on the coordinators, I would start in saying Ogeron's the guy that brought him in, and he also promised you and the fan base that he was going to bring in the best and the brightest every single year for LSU football, because he knew his setbacks when he was hired, that he couldn't do that stuff. He needed to just oversee, recruit, hand off the responsibilities to each side of the ball.
Can't. He asked Joe Brady who to pick. Pete Carroll, who do I pick? He's never been able to do it on his own. And he's a CEO. And he can't hire.
Hold tight. We're going to get linked up here with
BJ.
Ojulari.
And you see some of the same stuff that happened. Like, you watched Arkansas do the same thing.
Yeah.
You see the limitations of this coaching style when you have somebody.
Hey, BJ, you there?
Which one is he
on? Okay.
Hello.
Hey, man. We're live. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Rough one last night, bro. Tell me about it.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about it a little bit.
There's no way we supposed to lose that game, but you know, this small things caused it, in my opinion. So we just gotta get back to it next week, and the next week, another week, and get to Kentucky. So,
how was it preparing this week for the quarterback? Were you preparing for Bo Nix or were you preparing for TJ?
We were prepared for both of them. Our focus was stopping the run first, and then we were getting home. We just missed a lot of plays, and that's really it. Just missed a lot of big play opportunities.
Have you had a chance to go back and look at the film?
Not yet. I haven't personally looked at the film yet.
How frustrating was it against Nix last night? It seemed like you guys had him dead to rights at times, and he just slipped out of there.
Yeah, it was very frustrating because he's so slippery. I know I had him a couple of times, and I missed, so I'm very frustrated at myself, most of all, because I had a lot of opportunities to make a big play on him. But it's just very frustrating for him to be able to be so elusive like that last night.
How was the atmosphere? How was the Tiger Walk? How was running out into Tiger Stadium last night?
It's like no other. First Auburn game, first full stadium, first SEC game in Tiger Stadium. It was amazing.
What's the adversity like? Do you feel adversity? Do you feel that this week will be loud as far as the noise goes, and how do you handle that as a player?
I definitely feel like the noise is going to be there, especially going to Kentucky, their fan base, and Big Blue Nation. I feel like the atmosphere is going to be live, but we're going to come with our fists up and ready to go.
How does this week of preparation usually work when you guys take a loss? How does it seems like this is when Coach O does his best work when his back is up against the wall? What do you expect the preparation to be like this week versus Kentucky?
We just got to look at what we did wrong, perfect what we did wrong from Auburn, move on to Kentucky, and just continue to keep working for the win on next Saturday.
What's the schedule like this week? How's the schedule work?
It's going to be the same schedule. Just Monday, Tell the Truth Monday, Competition Tuesday, Turnover Wednesday, and then Thursday and Friday. The same schedule, just different mentality.
Big win for your bro down in New Orleans today, dude. 27-21 over the Saints in overtime. He was making plays.
Yes, sir.
Did you get down there? Did you have a chance to go watch?
Yeah. We just got back from the game. It was a great game to see him play for the first time. So it was a great experience.
Nice work last night, man. Have a great week of preparation this week. We will talk to you next Sunday night, and go get them.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You got it, man. There is B.J. Ojulari checking in tonight, as he does every Sunday night here on the Jordy Culotta Show, getting a little bit about going in last night. And as we said, look, man, we're not trying to set up anybody on this show to cause some team mutiny. We give our opinion, and our platform allows us to do that. And I think when you look at Coach Ojulari right now, when you look at the stability of this program and the things that we have talked about numerous times on this platform over and over again, everything from the PR to the on-the-field dysfunction to the hirings, to the way that the majority of those have not worked out, to where it looks like LSU is heading in a new expanded Southeastern Conference. I got good information, just like everybody out there is hearing and catching the buzz of what's going on, and I would feel good in saying that the wheels are set in motion to find out what the remedy is going to be for LSU football heading in the right direction. And the leadership that it is under right now is not what the authority is looking for. It's just not. It's dysfunctional on and off the field. And it starts with the head coach. It really does. I mean, everything that you see on Saturdays, I think, is a carryover and something that is oozing out of that facility throughout the week. And I think a lot of it is you look at a head coach who I really do wonder. I'm not taking a shot, and I'm not looking for some type of splash reaction to this of, you know, trying to cause a stir. But I wonder how checked in he really is to what is happening to his second stint as a head coach. You know, really just for him personally, this was an opportunity to really kill the storyline of what was Ole Miss and that part of his football life as a head coach. That was the only time he had been a head coach. He did it in an interim state at Southern Cal. He got another interim job at LSU. But a lot of the big push was to exercise the demons of who he was in Oxford and really show you that he had matured as a football coach and could handle this type of gig, could handle this type of job, could handle the weight, the scope, the overall just day-to-day grind of being a Division I, Power 5, big-time programs head coach. And it has been, outside of Joe Burrow and Joe Brady, which when you just turn on your televisions on Sunday, look at the game that Carolina got into today with Dallas. Look at what Joe Burrow did on Thursday night versus Jacksonville in the NFL. These guys are generational, revolutionary type players and coaches that come around once in a decade in the sport. Maybe 25 years in Burrow's case.
Yeah.
Blue Moon.
You take Joe Burrow and Joe Brady off of Ed Ogeron's resume, and what do you have? You've got a sunken ship as a football program. One that cannot even handle the public relations of the job. That weighs too much for him. I'm not here to get into rumor radio and hearsay and smoke, but I'm sure everybody's heard the latest on the LSU head football coach. More off-the-field drama for the guy whose team can't even get a play in on time. A month in. I mean, you're frustrated. I was there last night. 100,000 plus. Place was rocking. Now, we can get into the stuff at in the fourth quarter when you got a game on the line, 10 minutes left, and the place clears out. I just think that's PTSD from the traffic. I think that the whole time you're sitting there in the back of your head thinking, I got to get the hell out of here. I don't want to get stuck here until 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, I did it.
You saw it coming, though.
I loved it.
As soon as that ball hit the Auburn defender's gut on the interception, me and Kelly were on the stairs on our way down. I'm telling you, Coach, from our seat to our front door, it was 10 minutes. We got in, got on River Road, got on the interstate. Next thing you know, we're off, bang, 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 in the room. I mean, just 10 minutes in I'm probably giving myself a couple of minutes. It was amazing to see how fast I got out of there. I have no idea. I mean,
Flash a badge?
Because first, I think a lot of the place flooded out with 10 minutes left in the fourth.
Oh no.
And then we were in a perfect spot, cut on River Road, and really kind of beat the rush. I mean, there was a little bit of brakes, a little bit of brake lights in front of us, but I mean, we were in.
I was in it. I thought there was only 7 circles to hell. I had 8, 9, and 10.
Were you a contraflow?
Oh, I loved it.
I walked.
I ate an edible and just sat in the traffic. It was great. Had nothing. I listened to a couple people call into the show, and I was like, I feel you, brother. I love this. I was just stewing in it yesterday. Like you said, when you get to a point where you're like, this is comical. Like it got to a point yesterday where it was like, I'm not shocked at all if this is happening. I've seen this movie before. I've dated this girl, and I know exactly how toxic this is about to be, and it got exactly where I wanted it to go, and then we broke up.
When the fourth quarter hit and they weren't running, you're like, this defense can't hold. You just can't.
Defense
keep
was
doing
toast.
This
They were gassed.
Well, I mean, they were gassed, man. I mean, just first off, LSU, when have they become so weak-minded? Like they're such a weak-minded program now, taking and kicking these field goals and rushing three and can't run the ball. I mean, all of these characteristics that you say of a team is very like ACC, is like Texas Tech, is like these finesse type teams that make you want to believe that they just throw the ball every single down. I mean, LSU can't line up and get 1 yard when they have to have it these days. I mean, Greg McElroy, I went back and watched the TV copy of it this morning, and McElroy in his analysis, I mean, he's dead on. He's like, this isn't your dad's LSU team. This isn't the regular. They are not. I mean, look at the disrespect that Auburn has for them on 3rd and short. They've got 3 down linemen, and they're dropping 8.
And LSU's still scared to run the ball.
I mean, and they can't pick up a yard. You know what I mean? Like, it's a team and a program now that they can't run. They can't run the football. I mean, this is a program that pumped out LeBrandon Toefield to Leonard Fournette and everybody in between. Kevin Falk, before those guys. I mean, this place is known for being able to line up, shoot a shoe, run the ball down your throat if they have to do it. And they can't get a yard when their life's on the line now. I mean, they can't do it. The defense in just this no pressure, can't tackle, can't get there, but in a gang and beat you up. I mean, did you see Georgia's defense yesterday? Georgia's defense looked like the program of LSU from 05 to 16. Just flying around, making plays, every level, celebrating, in your face, talking shit. Looking at the sideline, flexing on people, daring somebody to throw it, wanting you to run it. Got defensive linemen chasing down your running back. I mean, just kicking your ass. Now we got a linebacker. LSU's got a linebacker and knocks a guy out at the 1 yard line and looks over him and flexes after a 15-yard run. What? I'm sitting there looking at this going, who has LSU evolved into? Where they've got this defense that celebrates positive gains from the other team. They can't run the football. They're more undisciplined than the Miami teams of the 90s.
Hell yeah.
I mean, but without the player. I mean, without the good stuff, without the championships.
I mean, we're the all-time field goal team, but Cade York, I mean, he should go pro.
You know what I mean? Are you kidding me?
He would be a fantasy football monster.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, if you are a head coach, right, do you not think that Kirby Smart, a guy who knows how to really kind of meddle the portal, a guy who's got relationships with all these guys that LSU has recruited? I mean, look at all the freshmen on LSU's field making plays.
Right.
I mean, you don't think that these guys who have the can get in touch with the uncle, get in touch with the dad, get in touch with the sister, get in touch with the girlfriend, get in touch with the player?
Yeah, at this point,
you know what I mean?
Who cares?
And say, bro, how bad is it? How bad is it? Because you know what? You can come over here and start tomorrow. And just cherry picking LSU's roster in a world today where, I mean, is that how it works?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'd imagine that's how it works for a guy like Kirby Smart, Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher. I mean, Dan Mullen, Mark Stoops. I mean, how do you think Mark Stoops is always the first in line for these guys? Dare Rosenthal looked like a lottery pick last night. I mean, he looked like a top 10 pick. Just bullying Florida's defensive line, the same Florida defensive line that was manhandling Alabama 2 weeks ago. I mean, you look up on LSU's roster right now, where is it? Where is it? Where do they get better? Where do they have a chance to even get the reeling confidence, the leaking confidence that they are already spewing? Where do they have a chance to get it back? I mean, Kentucky was chanting on the field last night that they want LSU.
I bet.
Florida's here in 2 weeks. Ole Miss is a get right. Looking at LSU saying, give me a piece of that dying shark. Just
sinking to the bottom,
pumping blood out into the ocean saying, come suck me. Come get me. Come eat me.
Eat me.
You know what I mean? Like, I am just...
Doors open.
I'm dead.
I'm at the seediest motel
I'm
on
dead,
the
man.
planet. Just
Who
doors
needs
open.
to get right?
Slutbuster.
Who needs to get
Slutbuster.
right?
Oh, my God. Slutbuster 3000 is the LSU football team. If you're not feeling good about yourself, line up and play the Tigers on Saturday. They're in disarray.
Great PR,
she just got a new prescription. Hadn't got the meds figured out right yet. She's all over the place. Good God. Good God.
What are you doing?
Is that not an all-time, if you're a football player, like, sit in the locker room game where you're just sit in there for 30 minutes, you're like,
how?
How did that just happen?
How did that happen? I mean, if you're a player on that field, I mean, like, somebody who's making plays. Think about Kayshon.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, think about like Cardell Flott. Think about like those guys like making plays last night. Look up on the scoreboard and say, "We got beat.
We're only up 3.
We got beat in this game where you're beating the hell out of a team where you're clearly better than them at certain positions." And it's just, man, it feels LSU feels
like a caged animal too.
It just feels like a place right now that is
great.
It's just a bad spot. All the energy looks bad. Ojuran's body language, his relationship. I mean, every time they showed him on the television, he's got his hand over his microphone, and it looks like he wants to get a piece of whoever he's trying to bark at. I mean, they just look so dysfunctional and so out of whack that I don't know where you start to get it back, because, you know, like, I thought that they could have gotten away with not being able to run the football last night.
They did get away with it.
Totally changed the game plan.
Look, I understand where you're coming from when you want LSU, like the old mindset of LSU, to be able to go toe-to-toe, heel-to-heel, and beat it down your throat. But did not LSU want to get away from that? Wasn't that the point of making these hires? They're like, we have to evolve into a different style of football because that doesn't work anymore. And so LSU got there, but then you kind of forget you still have to be able to do some of it. You know, like it seems like they went so spread heavy to the point where you forgot it almost feels the way that they're recruiting a little bit like Les Miles, where it's like skill position, and it looks great on paper, but now we don't have the guys that can get them the ball in terms of getting the play call in and get, like, it just isn't right. Like, you have so many guys that you want to see out there and get the ball. There's so many athletes on the field to where you have to eventually turn to coaching and be like, how is LSU not being able to score more than 19 points against an Auburn defense that isn't very good?
Right.
Like, that points to one thing, and when you have players like that, that's when they start to look around. It's like, I'm doing my job. Where's the leak in the boat? Like, why is the Titanic sinking? Where does it happen?
Pointing.
And there's an easy way to point when it comes, like, that's the last thing you want is players look around going, we're all good. Like, you can tell that they know that they're good at what they do, and it just seems so disjointed from the sideline to the field.
Think of Derek Mason's point of view of last night. Think of Derek Mason, the Vanderbilt head coach for the last 6 years, who has seen LSU play some of their best football in the program's history against him in that time period. That win that Burrow had in Nashville will probably go down to one of the more dominating games that the program has ever played. And that was a team that could run it, could throw it, could beat you any way that you aligned to them. Any way that you presented a challenge to them, they were going to beat you. That Auburn front that Kevin Steele ran at you, if you remember, Clyde had an enormous day that Saturday. You don't think we can run it? You don't think LSU can run it? We'll just turn around and hand it to a first-round pick. All day long, he's going to get 150 on you, and they're going to win the game, and they're going to get out of there. Exactly. And now looking at them and saying, they can't run the football.
They can't get a play in.
They can't run the ball,
Rushing
they can't even get the play from the sideline to the huddle on a fourth down coming out of a timeout. They come out and jump off sides. Derek Mason's like probably thinking, like, what am I looking at? Like,
the pay raise.
They couldn't have done this a couple of years back. I might still have a head coaching job. It is so maddening to see how much Joe Burrow and Joe Brady covered up the warts of the inability of Ojuran to lead, because take them out of the equation and Ojuran is Edo from Ole Miss. Everything that you thought he was going to be when LSU hired him, without Joe Burrow in the mix, he is. He's worse. Really, at some points. I mean, the personnel plaguing problems that they have, to look on that offensive line and still see no Marcus Dumerville, see no Marlon Martinez, see none of those guys that are playing when that group is inept. seeing no Sage Ryan a month into the season, where you're still seeing guys play back there and wondering, where's the 5-star safety that you had to beat Alabama for on signing day at?
It's probably on the phone.
Where is the big defensive tackle that you were talking about in preseason camp? Was it Bryce Langston?
Yes.
Yeah.
That every single day, this guy's gonna play. Hey, we can't keep this guy off the field. This guy's got to play. He got to play. Where is he a month in? Where is Mike Jones? I'd love to hear the recruiting pitch made to Mike Jones to get him to leave Clemson to come to LSU, where he's got to believe he's got an opportunity to play against a linebacking core that's been questionable at best going into the season. This guy can't get a rep.
The guy who had a pick against Ohio State in the semis.
What else do you have to see from Corey Kiner? Mm-hmm. What else do you have to see from 21 to just make this guy your back? Like, what else are you waiting on? Well, I don't understand how it's so obvious to people like us who know nothing about football compared to these guys. I'm not saying by any means that I know more, that I know what I'm looking at. If I sat down in a film room with any of these cats, they'd run circles around me. But my first question would be, why didn't 21 play? Like, what else do you want to see? What else does he have to do? I mean, you guys can't establish a run, yet every time you put a ball in his gut, he gets positive yardage. Like, at least he's going to give you a chance. You know what I mean? Like, why aren't they playing the best guys? Why aren't they playing these guys? I got to imagine in the recruiting world, a guy like Sage Ryan not playing is plaguing them with a guy like Jacoby Matthews. Yeah. I would imagine that Jacoby Matthews' people, parents, leaders are in touch with those types of players saying, what's the deal? Why isn't he playing? Because he was better than Jacoby last year, and they didn't have a safety in recruiting. Like, they were telling you they needed a safety. Where is Sage Ryan? Why? Maybe he's hurt. Maybe I don't know what's going on. Possibly, but for a month,
he was dressed out. He was dressed out and warming up last night, and it was. I think it was the first time he had been dressed out all year.
Yeah, I've heard it's a hamstring, but it's been a 3-month hamstring.
Yeah,
I mean, like you said, this is when you talk about it's the Titanic going down. Like, you're watching and you're just. And when you think about the people getting off the boat, it's recruits. You asked who can fix the offensive line. They were on the sidelines last night, but they're in high school. Like,
Will Campbell.
You need a Will Campbell. You need an Emory Jones. And there is, if you want any sort of like light at the end of the tunnel that's not a train, it's that in 2 years you will have this. The culture, or at least in terms of recruiting, has shifted a little bit to where he has found out that he obviously needs offensive linemen and bringing a new offensive line coach. Like, all of it is shifting in that direction. Of course, it's nice to have
Cedric Van Pran is the starting center at the University of Georgia. Those are the guys that if you're an ace recruiter and that guy is in New Orleans, he's not you get. He is a must get.
First in the boat.
He is a, hey man, LSU needs a center. We're going to build the entire offensive line around you. Next thing you know, this guy's starting for a national championship contender at Georgia. I mean, that's the type of stuff that when it's as bad as it is off the field, and it is bad off the field for O. Like, it is smoking, billowing smoke from the Ojulari PR camp. Really and truly. Everybody involved. Derek Panamsky should be embarrassed how many stories of public relation blunders come out on his boy every day, and the bridges that they have burned around loyal followers, not only in this town, but in the community and the fan base, is absurd. The way that people talk about Panamsky and Ojulari. And I know that the administration is catching wind of that, because it's people in the streets, it's people on high school sidelines, it's coaches, it's boosters, it's everywhere. The public relations of Ed Ojulari is a clusterfuck. And it shows no signs of getting any better.
How couldn't it? I mean, how could it be even worse, you know?
Change them.
I mean, it's
shocking.
It is shocking. It's amazing It really is. To have the amount, first off, the amount that Les Miles screwed up the public relations and gave you a roadmap to what the avenues were to stay away from. Like, steer clear from that corner, dude. Because, like, bro, don't go over. Do not go over there because that stuff will light you on fire.
Let me roll it.
That stuff will bury you, man. And I mean, he took his shirt off and went and played in that corner. You know what I mean? He didn't roll his sleeves up and go and play in that corner. He took his shirt completely off, put Crisco tanning oil on his body, and went and played over there.
It's the old school.
I mean,
I'm here for the gangbang.
Yep. That's right. I'm here for the gangbang.
You're not invited.
It is amazing.
I mean, to be honest, we had to, if you're an LSU fan, this was coming at some point. You don't want it to happen. LSU Auburn at night. I mean, and how long has it been? 1999. It's been almost however many years. I'm not going to do the math on air because I can't. But it's been a long time.
Over 20 years.
Over 20 years. And like, but if it wasn't going to happen against LSU, I mean, Auburn, LSU, it was going to be Kentucky. It was going to be Florida. I mean. I was talking to people at the tailgate yesterday.
Keep out face with open eyes.
I was talking to people at the tailgate yesterday, and it's like, what do you think's going to happen whenever we get to like the real meat of this thing?
Hey, Kayshon, you good?
Yeah.
Hold tight. All right, we live. All right, we are joined right now with the best wide receiver in the country, Kayshon Boutte, off of another electric night last night, another consecutive game with a touchdown pass. Opening drive, beautiful pass, beautiful catch to Kayshon, but a tough loss last night. Take me through it, man. What are the emotions you feel last night after a tough loss in SEC play, but you played dominant again?
I mean, you win some, you lose some, but nothing wrong with a little bit of adversity. I think we just got to work hard at better. That's all.
What was today like? Have you had a chance to watch the film? If so, what did you see? If not, what are you looking for when you do get a chance to see it?
When we look at the film, I think we will be looking for mistakes we made and things we could have did better in order to make bigger plays.
You mentioned the adversity. I saw on your Twitter today that in adversity comes good stuff. What do you expect this week of preparation to be like for your team?
I mean, I expect it to be great. We're coming off a loss. Well, we're coming off a loss coming into another SEC game. Kentucky, a 5-0 team, strong team. So it's really just a week of focus and how we gonna bounce back.
Was it frustrating for you last night not to get the ball as much as you probably should have in the second half? Was that something that they were taking away?
I mean, the first quarter was open, but we kind of came to the second half and we started looking at it. It was kind of getting bracketed, so it was giving other playmakers the ball and letting them make plays. I wasn't mad about it at all. Just finding a way to help my team.
What's the schedule like this week?
Same old, same schedule. Practice every day.
Go get him, bro. I know this is very frustrating times for you. Stay focused, stay healthy, and we will talk again next Sunday night.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, man. There is Kayshon Boutte checking in tonight from LSU football. Another dominant performance for him last night. I mean, it was very frustrating, obviously, in the first half, not to have him, or excuse me, in the second half, not to have him more involved after a night in the first half where, I mean, he felt unguardable at times. He had 6 grabs for 127 last night. He averaged about 22 yards a catch, had a score.
So he did all in a half. He did all of the,
pretty much. And that last catch that he bobbled that, right? I mean, that was incomplete.
I thought it was a catch. I mean,
Well, it came out when he hit the ground. It's kind of like that
Calvin
Des.
Johnson.
It's kind of like that Des Bryant.
It was early Doucette, Arizona State.
Yeah.
Or is that Devery or early?
Wait, say it again.
Arizona State.
Arizona State was early.
It was early Doucette. That's what
Yeah.
it was. It was
Yeah.
kind of like, it wasn't to that degree, but it did move around a little bit.
Yeah.
What's with the, okay. Why do they only have one camera? Why do they have to jog all the way across the field to go do this review? Like, are they really watching it on that tiny ass screen? And they only have one of them. They have to run all the way to the other side of the field.
Reviews are so bad.
I mean,
it kills the
just-
game.
They killed so much momentum all of the time.
It kills the vibes of the
Both
game.
sides, like both sides.
It
It's not
does.
just for us. Like it did it both ways. Every play that's kind of here or there is just be confident in your call. Just make a
They
call.
only have one of those.
Football. You might miss one.
Yeah.
This is the game.
They only have one of those screens though. Like
I think so.
If they called it on one side of the field, if it was in the north end zone, they had to jog all the way to the south end zone to go to the one screen. It's like we can't get two of these. This is the ESPN we're
also
talking
do
about.
that. I mean, they still got the
And
chain gang
and
and
then it's the size of this, and they're just like, okay, I see it now. Like, and you're just listening on a headset to somebody else that's watching it. Like, it makes no sense. We could expedite this process a little bit.
I think that you're definitely at some point with as much technology
It's unbelievable.
as there is in the world that you're definitely going to look back at this point in sports and be like, hold up, they did what? You had to go put a headset on, talk to somebody that was up in a booth. You did. Why didn't they just put like a laser or somebody, some type of microchip in the ball where you could tell what the hell was going on? I mean, in 2021, it does feel very like a waste of time for as much as they have to go and go to this review. But look, I'm not getting into that. I'm not.
Did you think
Come on.
That is a
back
whole.
to the root? Did you think it was a Kayshon catch?
I thought, but I was there in person. I thought, what are they even looking
I was
at?
mystified. I was like, that's under
I was like,
review?
what are they even looking at? And then, like I heard somebody that was like sitting behind me saying it was no catch before the call. I was like, what do you mean no catch? He came up with the ball and he was inbounds. I mean, what are they even asking? What's the question?
Maintain it through the ground.
Yeah, and it was the Calvin Johnson stuff. It was, man.
But I mean, who cares, right?
It was, yeah.
Because I mean, you don't want. To be honest, like you might as well cut the arm off while you have the gangrene before it infects the entire body. Like it's the Les Miles scenario again. Like if he beats Auburn before the clock runs out, you're just stuck with the same thing again. Like there's no way that win fixes the problems that you saw yesterday. Like a win is almost worse than a loss at that point because, in my opinion, this is just me. This thing's cooked. Like you can't look at that game yesterday and go, I would like for that to happen again next Saturday. Like that, you can't fix the problems that are happening in a week, in a month, in a year. This is just what it's going to look like. It seems like to me. So
withdrawals from withdrawal.
Yeah, as much as I want to be positive about it, you can't put that product on the field.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this thing is it's billowing smoke. It's not just the on the field product. Is a great example of the chaos that LSU football lives in every single day. And there's just no way around that.
New York in the 90s.
It is just a chaotic, unfocused, it has no direction. It has no
landing point.
It has no leadership. This is what bad leadership looks like in the public. We have seen this from the administration level when you saw Joe Oliva, when you saw F. King Alexander, and they've tried to clean up those messes by bringing in new hires. And Joe Oliva hired Ed Ojulari, and Scott Woodward's first year was Joe Burrow's last year, Joe Brady's first year. So it's easy to be almost drunk in what you're looking at and saying, good Lord, this is incredible. Of just the effectiveness and the product of what this is. I mean, this guy has made great hires. He understands what it means for him to be in a position of his leadership role calls for him to bring in the brightest, the most well-respected offensive and defensive mind that he can have to lead each side of the ball, let him recruit the state. It's a great formula if it can work, if everybody understands their role. And, from Ojulari's pace, he has to almost stay 3 or 4 steps ahead than everybody because he has to know 2-3 games into the season of Joe Brady in 2019 that this guy ain't going to be here long. You know what I mean? Like, this is going to be a real quick ride. I mean, this is going to be incredible. Make sure I got the next guy in line. Even Dave Aranda. He got 2 years, 3 years with Aranda. Aranda's getting, he got the UNLV interview in 2018, which has got to tip you off and let you know there are people out there that are curious and want him to lead the program. I got to know who's next. I got to have my guy. I got to be able to be thinking ahead here because the competition on getting great assistants is fierce.
Do you think this is going to happen at Arkansas? This is the same model right now.
I got to imagine that Sam Pittman is 2 steps ahead, knowing that if he doesn't replace Kendall Briles and he doesn't place Dave Odom with somebody that's going to get the respect on the recruiting trail and guys that he can entrust to run those sides of the ball, then, Sam Pittman could look up. He's got to look at Ed Ogeron and say, that is a cautionary tale for me. Mm-hmm. He's got to look at Ed Ogeron and LSU and say, wow, I see what happens if I got the right guys where, you could possibly make a run here and, do something special. Or if you swing and miss, you could be out of a job. You could be, or at least start the conversation of, get this guy out of here because he doesn't understand the model in which he has to live. I mean, Ed Ogeron, what is he going to fall back on if he makes bad hires? If he takes over the defense, it's only going to be worse. I mean, it was like if you saw Les Miles with the play sheet in his hand. You were thinking to yourself, we're screwed. You're done. I mean, what can O do good, do well that's D-line on his resume that makes you think, but the D-line, I mean,
last night.
Where are the guys that he was talking about? Where's the depth? Where's the ability to tackle? Where's the guys that you expect to have made that leap, made that jump, evolved, progressed, developed? Where are those guys at? I mean, if you're just evaluating LSU football from a progressive standpoint, how have they gotten better? I mean, look at their 5 front guys on the offensive line. Let's just take that unit, and I don't mean to pile on, but it's easy to look at and say, how much better has Liam Shanahan gotten in the 2 years that he's been here? How much better has Ed Ingram gotten since that first year where he was an all-SEC freshman guy? How much better has Cam Wire gotten since he got time last season? How much better has Chasen Hines gotten since he's played extended amount of football? How much better has Austin Deculus really gotten in those 38, 37 starts that he's got? You know what I mean? Just how much has there been development? And that is a fair evaluation, in my opinion, on judging coaching, right? Like, we can sit here and debate the PR stuff, the off-the-field stuff, how it's weighed, how it's measured, who cares, who doesn't care, what it means to the people that care, what it means to the people that do, all that stuff. At the end of the day, if you're not developing your talent winning football games, you're a failure at your job if you're a football coach. And you pluck Joe Burrow and Joe Brady out of the formula of Ed Ogeron, and he is a failure of epic proportions at LSU. I mean, it's blunder after failure after blunder after just misstep where you're asking and wondering. I mean, there were people around me, and I'm sure there were you last night, whether you were in the stadium or you were watching at somebody's house or you were watching in a bar room, wherever you were watching, there was at some point somebody next to me that were looking around saying, what the hell is LSU doing?
I said that 25 times.
What the hell is going on? Like, They don't understand the personnel they're supposed to be in. They can't get to play in on time. They're calling timeouts after kickoffs. What's going on? What the hell is happening to the LSU football program? And you could hear it in the announcer's voice. You can hear it on a national scale these days. Turn on your radio tomorrow. Turn on your platform tomorrow of YouTube, wherever you get your sports news, and listen to what they are saying about LSU nationally. How disrespected they are nationally. I mean, it was a great point, and I don't really put a lot of stock into McElroy's analysis, and I don't listen to his radio show every day. He's in the media. He covers the sport. He played quarterback. I will respect his opinion of what he's watching and saying. And last night, as he was sitting there watching the game, who's got really good history of the LSU football program, has played against that team and program in really meaningful games, was looking at it saying, what am I looking at? This isn't the LSU that I know. They can't even line up and run and get you a yard when they have to have it. They don't have that bell cow back that was a All-American in high school, that was the state's best player back there that you can just turn and hand. No, he's academically ineligible. What do you mean he's academically ineligible? Who ruled him that? The NCAA. They still have teeth? They're still allowed to even make those types of calls in today's world? I guess they are against LSU because their starting running back is academically disqualified from playing this year. How? Huh? What? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it happened to LSU. You know what I mean? Like, I've never heard of that happening at any other Division I pro, much less in the SEC, where every single year, like, who are we fooling? It's all about the football season. It's about how much money we can make. Can they play for championships? And you're starting running back the Friday before your season opener is a scratch because he took the wrong class? Like, how? At LSU, you have $100 million operating budget. I mean, and it's one thing if it's the deep snapper. It's John Emery. Like, how does that happen? Well, that's the latest in a list of everything that's happening to this program that's happening publicly, and people are discussing. Like, I mean, turn it on. Listen to McElroy. You can't get a yard. Look how undisciplined they are. They can't get a play in on time. They don't know when to use timeouts.
It's almost comical.
It is comical. I mean, if you don't laugh at it, it will drive you crazy. I mean, I was sitting next to two guys last night, a father and a son combo, where I really did feel bad for that ride home. I felt bad for these guys on Sunday because it just was wearing them down. It was killing them. It was the Ojulari meme from practice a couple of weeks ago, where he's pulling he's pulling his hair out of his head, and his face looks like it should be blowing smoke out of the ears. I mean, it looks like you should. Yes, I mean, it got so red. I mean, it was like, what? This is amazing. And I mean,
it wasn't even those. Those are a part of a massive. Like, that's probably 98% of the people that were there. Like, when I was looking around just the Gen Pop section where I sat with the people, it was everybody was looking around with, it was this. Everywhere you turned, it was palms up to the sky going, what the fuck is happening right now? Like, how is this possible? And everybody if you didn't even have hair, I lost thousands of strands yesterday. My hairs were just in my head the whole time, and this can't happen again. Like, I've already watched this movie. I hate it. I hate seeing that happen to LSU when you have all the players again. You have all the guys that are special. You can't get the fucking play in.
Here's the residual effect of being bad in 2021 and possibly replacing your coach. Not only does 2021 go down as a bad season, you miss out on a revolutionary recruiting class. A recruiting class that if you corner, and it's not over yet, but this is almost nearly, if you don't have your guy in line when you make this move and have him inserted immediately and have him selling the message on the trail, you're going to miss the bulk of these guys. And you still may retain a Walker Howard and a Will Campbell and an Emory Jones, guys that are building blocks type players that you can establish a future and a program around. But if you were able to capture this entire 2022 class and get all the parts, the Shaz Prestons,
what's the deal with him?
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what it is, but I can't imagine that they are looking at LSU and thinking anything seriously when you've really got Kirby Smart, Nick Saban, and the others selling the message to you as somebody that they want primarily. You know what I mean? Up against this stuff. And even if you're a low, one thing that I will tell you that it looks like, and Sonny Ship and I were talking about this, and I have not talked to anybody and gotten this, affirmed to me, but just knowing the situation and following it, one thing that Quincy Wiggins looks like he has lost was the peer pressure of staying home.
Yeah.
Is the really, if I leave, how much is it going to hurt everybody? That part of you as a kid to really want to please people, it looks like he's lost that completely.
Now they'd feel bad for him if he stayed.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Especially watching the way Georgia's defensive line manhandles every offensive line in front of them, the way Alabama's defensive line plays year in, year out. I mean, and that's the case for multiple recruits. I mean, Le'Veon Moss, he opened his recruitment back up, didn't he? He was committed to Alabama originally. He opened it back up. Not for LSU. Not after that.
Why? I mean, it just, when you look at this entire 2022 class, man, I mean, this is the building blocks. This is the cornerstone of a championship run. I mean, you would look up 2-3 years from now, if you're in the Final Four and playing in a championship-style format, that you've got Walker Howard as your quarterback, Shaz Preston as your wide receiver, Jacoby Matthews as your safety, Jake Johnson as your tight end. Trevante Citizen as Kendrick Law. I mean, there's so many players that are in this state that you have to get, and they're areas of need. Emory Jones, Will Campbell, Broussard, Bordelon, those guys that are on the offensive line. I mean, Campbell and Jones they'd start for LSU
right now.
last night.
Yeah.
I mean, they would have started for LSU. I'm not kidding. I mean, just the fact that some of these guys can't get on the field that have been in the program now, it's maddening to me that Marcus Dumerville doesn't play.
Was he a high 4, right?
Huh? He was a high 4-star guy. I mean, he comes out of a program in St. Thomas Aquinas in Florida that pumps out players. I mean, guys that are playing on Sundays have played in that program. And at LSU, where you don't have the left tackle is a saloon door. I mean, it's a swinging door. It never stops. It never starts working. And that guy can't get a rep. He can't get a snap. That is amazing to me. That is amazing. And I know that Sage Ryan's been banged up, and I know that Kevion Falk is a family member of his, and that is devastating for the entire community and the Falk family. But outside of the tragedy, and if in and out of the training room, it's crazy the insufficiency that you've seen at the safety spot, and not to see that guy on the field. I mean, that is a 5-star.
Had to get him.
I mean,
you want him day signing,
life-saving type recruit that I know he's been banged, but there's got to be spots where you can at least just get out there for 5 or 6 plays and go do what you do great. And it's just, man, it's Baton Rouge. I mean, LSU is.
I mean, you can say Baton Rouge.
It's maddening.
What
man.
do we do? I'm not trying to make it personal. It's just like, what is the evaluation when you looked at center for 2 years in a row? And Shanahan's a great kid, great locker room, classroom.
Here's the more concerning part. Here's the more concerning part. Who's going to be your center next year?
Right. I don't know.
Like, who is going to be the offensive line at LSU? They are going to have to raid the transfer portal.
Well,
and the guys that you were getting out of the transfer portal came from the Ivy League the last time you were looking for starters at that position group. You know, I mean, like if you're counting on the transfer portal, it's in basketball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This isn't basketball where overnight you can go in there and become a pretender to a contender. You know what I mean? You can go up there and pick up a Williams like Alabama picked up out of the portal, who just, I mean, is now their best wide receiver.
Arkansas's D-line. I mean,
Trey Williams. I mean, some of these guys, I mean, you can go and get one type of player. Like, you can't go get a group. You can't get an entire front 4. You can't get an entire front 5 on the offensive line. I mean,
compete in the West.
They need LSU. Seriously, I have no idea who's going to play offensive line for them next year. I mean, and I know that next year is a lifetime away. But as far as building a program in year 5, where Ed Ojulari is, that is some of the stuff that should be taking care of itself. Like the fact that you're still dealing with roster issues at the same position group that you were losing steam on when he took the job 5 years ago. Man, again, failure at the job. That is an epic failure of developing and maintaining a roster at an SEC level and being competitive every year, so you're not riding this roller coaster where one year you're championship contending, the next year, you got the first pick in the draft. I mean, you're terrible.
Could use a pick.
I think it's 5 and 7 since the national title.
8 and 7.
8.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the guy called him and said, "You finally have a winning record. Congratulations."
I wonder if he'll call back on Wednesday night.
I mean, close. You coach. You're close to being back to 500. Everything seems all right.
Just when you were swinging swinging in plus 500, you had to go lay an egg, didn't you?
That game was.
That game was embarrassing.
42-10.
I mean, if you were a head football coach, if that was your trade, if that's what you do, and I have done many of podcast shows and many radio shows where I have looked at, listened back to, and thought to myself, that was terrible. That was embarrassing. But if I was a head football coach, I would watch that one with my pillow over my head last night.
Like watching the first episode of this. Like,
I mean, just my
God.
Look how dumb we look. Look how unorganized we look. Look at there's got to be other coaches around the country just pointing and laughing at us, huh?
It's not Urban.
I mean,
he's pointing somewhere else.
Herb, pointing north, bro.
Dude, I think he was about to come in his pants.
I mean,
he had his hands over his
He
crotch.
was.
It looked like he was
That
going to
poor
come in
heart.
his pants.
so the story. So they go to play Jackson. Jacksonville goes to Cincinnati
Yeah.
on Thursday night, and he hangs out
Looks
in
like he's
Ohio.
Dude, he's big
He's got the
BMOC.
Ohio State.
Yeah,
He's got the Ohio
They're going to
State.
remember who I am.
So that's why I was looking back thinking, was that a picture from the
Is
past?
it old? I
Was
don't
it
think
old?
so.
I think it's recent.
No, it's
I think
all
so.
over Twitter. I think
I know
it's new.
it's all over Twitter.
His eyes look like he just left the 8 o'clock Auburn game. He was like,
I mean, just go Jags.
yeah, get jagging off.
Jag me off, man.
I'm going to make my way down to LSU here in a
Just
second.
jag it off, man. Just
He looked so happy. He's like, I
I
can't wait to
mean,
get in trouble.
got the Ohio State pullover
little
on.
quarter zip.
I mean, he's just back in the hood representing,
What's
man.
up?
You know, just Coach Herb's back.
Herb's back. Y'all seen these before?
Remember what it was like to hang out with a winner?
He had to put out a statement today. He said, I'm going
What's
to
the
apologize to my wife and my
man.
family for my acts. Somebody on Twitter said that he
Hey,
had
let me
5
tell you
margaritas.
who. Let me tell you who the most least surprised was.
His wife.
His wife. She's heard that a million times. You know what I
Especially when he's
mean?
back in Ohio. He's like, can't make it home, honey. Like, well, I saw that. I saw where you were last night.
Yeah, right.
I'm not surprised. No red
Was
eye
that-
for you.
Was that Alicia in the picture? I thought that was her.
I don't know. She's
You know what I
18.
mean? Yeah, right. That was the regular back when we were in Columbus, right? I mean,
Looks good.
It's been a while.
yeah,
that's
the
good.
one who was least surprised was just like the LSU administration after getting the latest of the rumor mill with their head coach. Nobody's surprised. I mean, there was so much smoke billowing around the LSU football program for more stuff off the field on Ojulari. I mean, like, could you imagine? If you're in this listening audience and you are a C-level executive, if you are an executive level employee, if it is your responsibility to oversee and manage people, if nearly once a week, every other 3 days, you got to sit down with one of your most valued employee, one of your most marketable employees, one of your most recognizable faces out in the public and say, hey man, can you keep your personal life personal? Is that even an option anymore? Because everything you seem to touch in the public is a blunder, is a headache for us. Is there any way you could meet us halfway? You know, since we're dishing out $8.5 million a year for you to run the program and represent it for 365, is it okay? Do you think that maybe in return you could respect the seat just a bit, just a little bit, have some respect for the job that you have? That's why I ask. Really and truly, I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm not trying to cause a stir. I'm not trying to get a reaction. How much is he checked out? Really? I mean, if I'd have brought the scenario to Ed Ojulari 3 years ago and say they're going to pay you $8.5 million a year
After winning
to
the
coach football, he'd have probably been, get the fuck out of here. Say what? How to pay me $8.5? You're going to pay me $8.5 million? I mean, sign me up. What do I have to do? What do I need to do? Well, you're to get this Burrow kid. Just hire Brady, bring him in. Next thing you know, you should be good. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do.
How much do you think it was?
And you stack nearly $20 million in the bank since then, since that championship run. Let's call it, let's be fair, let's call it 12 after taxes, because it's not quite 20, but nearly $8.5 million a year over the last 2 years, with the potential of a $20 million buyout.
17 for 21 million for the whole staff.
$17 million.
They're all going
If they let you go. You really think a guy like Ojulari, who has gone and seen the mountaintop of college football, seen what it looks like, knows what it smells like, knows what it feels like,
knows what it smells like.
It feels like.
knows how it compensates him, and still think he's real motivated to one team, one heartbeat, to represent Louisiana, to all that junk. He sold you. sold us.
Standard of performance.
All of it.
On me. It's on
I
me.
mean,
It's on me.
that
They win, it's on them. Yep.
in some ways, you know, it's okay to say it because don't you feel it? We were duped. LSU was duped. It's a hoodwink. I mean, they can't get a play in on time. I mean, this
first thing you have to do.
is a college football
They
program.
can't run the ball getting rushed by 3.
You've been playing for a month. Been practicing for nearly 2 months. And it still can't get a play in on time. And the head coach the last 3 Mondays has said into the public, into the cameras, that's something we got to fix.
Or
We're going to pay attention to that every single day. We got to get the plays in on time. We can't go through another week when that's going to hurt us. And it's gotten worse.
what happened to going fast?
It's been a setback. It doesn't even exist. It's regressed. I mean,
What more do you need to see?
yeah, it's like what are you doing? What is going on? Like what is happening? Like how can't you fix that? How can't that be remedied? I mean, like that you can't get the plays in on time? Like it's 4th and 1 from Auburn's 4. You don't have a play for this? It's a huge swing point of the game. Like if you score here, you could close the door.
Game.
You get the win.
Yeah.
You don't have a play here? No, they don't have a play.
Not only that,
Hey, you call a timeout then.
It
Call a
false start.
timeout. They call a timeout, come out of the timeout, and jump off sides. You go from 4th and 1 to 4th and 6.
and he couldn't wanted anything
I
more than
swear to
kick
God,
it.
I thought they were going to show him on TV, and I thought he was going to be bent over eating grass. I thought he was going to have his finger 4 inches into his ear looking up at the scoreboard wondering what time it was. I thought it was Les Miles down on the sidelines coaching the game. Then he came out and called a timeout as a kickoff, and it was worse. It was worse. It was worse.
It was comical.
I mean, I look for angles to bash Les. This is worse than Les. I mean, at least with Les, he could line up and get you 4 or 5 yards running the ball. You know what I mean? Like, he'd line up shoe to shoe and push you off the ball 3 or 4 yards and just bury you into the ground. Boring as hell, but you win the game. They can't even line up and get you a yard. LSU football cannot line up and get 1 yard if their life depended on it. Because their life has depended on it, and they can't get a yard. Or they probably could if they'd run Corey Connor. You know what I mean? Like, what? Give it to 21! Like, what do you... Throw the ball to number 1. Don't overthink it. Take your best players and put the ball in their hand. Like, what is the problem?
Not trying to split the atom here.
Dude, it's...
Football has
Give it
existed
to
for a
one.
very
Yeah, give
long
it to
time,
one.
and that's the formula. Your best players get the ball, and it seems like LSU can't even figure out how to snap it. Like you've regressed to the point where you don't know what you're going to see play to play. And for all the flack that the coordinators got, Durante Jones did an excellent job calling the game yesterday. Like, that was a good defensive plan. Like, they didn't bring pressure. I know it's not the same LSU that we talk about. It does look very Big 12 ACC-ish. But if you hold them to under 30 points, you should win the football game. You hold it, what was it, 21? Like, that's
24.
a game that 24, that's the game you should win, 24-19. That's a game you have to win.
Damone was talking about it in the press conference after the game. He was like, we had them exactly where we wanted them.
You made them play LSU's game.
Just couldn't tackle them. Just couldn't tackle them.
Well, it's going to be a long week for LSU football, and things are not going to ease up next Saturday as they heading to Lexington. And Lexington and Kentucky is playing with just supreme confidence. They won, Kentucky did, for the first time in the last 16 tries of playing Auburn in the Commonwealth. That was their first win over Florida in Kentucky last night in program's history. First win for Auburn at LSU since 1999. That was the first time Auburn had come on the road in this series and won a game since 1999. Cole Kublik, who is
cigar smoker himself,
came on with us on Friday and offered great insight to this game. was the starting center in that game, just to give you a little bit of perspective. The last time that Auburn had come into Baton Rouge, and the part that's got to be so frustrating is that the scene was set, the table was set. I mean, all week we had talked about going into Saturday night. I wonder if there'll be 100,000. I thought there would be 100,000. There wasn't nearly 100, but there was 95.
Loud 95.
Yeah. And it was loud. It was rocking. People were there. People were supportive. People were great to be back. People loved being back in the stadium. It was set up to be an epic night for LSU football, one that you could really build on. All the recruits were there. We were down there before the game. I mean, everybody was in town, man. All of them. I mean, all the 5 stars. I mean, everybody locally. Everybody. I mean, I saw Beth Tarina had big-time recruits in. Will Wade had big-time recruits in. LSU baseball. Jay Johnson had big. I mean, it was just one of those nights at LSU where you want to show it off. You want people to see what it's like to be a part of the university, the program, the community, the city, the stadium, all of it. It was a phenomenal, great night. 6:30, rain lets up, clear skies, good night, beautiful night for football. Everything lines up except for what happened on the field. And LSU really controlled the game. Like we said, going into the fourth quarter, you got a 9-point lead. Any way you get out of there, you win the game. You can call it ugly all you want here the next day, but you got to win the game, and you lose that game the way that you do. It almost feels unrecoverable.
I know it's overreaction Sunday.
It is very much
it
very much is a electric, a lightning in a bottle type take, but just the momentum rolling against the program feels like it just is going to be very, very tough to come back from.
And it's not the loss, it's the way that it happened, right? Like, because you get out to such a fast start, everything looks like it's clicking, and then from the first quarter after, it's like, oh, you could feel the energy leaving. Man. Like, yeah, even at half, you could feel like they give you an onside kick to start the second half. Yeah. You can't score from the 50. Like, Auburn tried to gift you that game, and LSU couldn't put it together. Like, everything that they tried to do, everything that worked, and there was no point that LSU should have felt like they were losing that game until the end, when it was like, oh, this is over. But you could feel the momentum leaving every drive because they're not going to score. They don't know another timeout. It was so disjointed in a game where you should be the one making all of the moves. You should be the one putting the pressure on because you have 95,000 strong at your back, and they want to celebrate all of this.
Defense hold on for dear life.
And defense was doing everything they could to get you the ball back, and they did it. They made stop after stop when they needed to. I know they gave up a 4th and 2, and Bo Nix made some amazing plays. But that's part of football, and that happens. But for all intents and purposes, LSU had the ball every time they needed to put the game away, and they couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. And that's the worst part of that stadium. Whenever, walking down that tunnel, you could hear, like, literal murmurs. It was
Deion
dropped, the whole way.
Deion dropped that little...
That was a hell of a... I mean, that's a tough play to make.
Right.
But he should have caught that.
Yeah, of course. I'm saying you can't put it on one thing.
Yeah, no, you can't.
That game could have been pivoted at any point. Like, that would have been... That's a game saver. Like, that's what you need to do to win games sometimes. But it should have never come to that point.
Absolutely. I would imagine that Scott Woodward has got his list in line. I'd imagine that there has been phone calls of interest put out to see just in fact who it would be if there was movement here. Delvin's asking, Jordy, who are your top replacements? And I've spoken on this before, and I don't want to fire Ed Ogeron before he is. I mean, I'd like to wait till the job officially opens before we start naming replacements, but we've put some names, into the stratosphere of people that we would look at and definitely give a call. And I even think, after Lane Kiffin's performance on Saturday versus Alabama, everybody is quick to jump on Kiffin and say, that his stock is so far down right now. I would disagree on that, and I would still keep Lane Kiffin as my top choice. I think that, he is a guy that immediately takes care of one side of the football for you overnight. If you hire Lane Kiffin, your offense becomes productive, and it doesn't matter what your personnel is, and LSU's got exceptional personnel at the skill spots. You also will have a quarterback forever. Mm-hmm. If Lane Kiffin is your quarterback, you have a quarterback. It doesn't matter if it's somebody that you have to to move from a running back like Blake Sims. I mean, don't forget that Blake Sims was a competitive quarterback for Alabama to anybody like, Jacob Coker, who couldn't walk and chew gum at the same time and won a national championship with, because Kiffin knew how to, exploit his strengths and hide his weaknesses. So to me, I think that Kiffin is a swing, a direct shot, and a home run that you could hit. And I think he would listen to LSU, because I believe that he looks at an LSU job compared to an Ole Miss job, and he knows he can win a national championship here. And he knows he's got to get really creative to do that at a place like Ole Miss. Not to say he can't do it, and you
saw the disparity yesterday.
But you did. You saw the differences.
Can
That's exactly right. Ole Miss is playing with about as sharp as a knife as they can take to the fight. And if you play that game,
has a goddamn hammer.
If you play that guy, he's got an assault rifle.
Yeah, he's a bazooka.
If you play that game 10 times, it's probably not as lopsided as it was. You caught a lot of emotion. Alabama was looking to rebound after that game last year. There was obvious that Saban is probably putting that's probably become a little bit of a miniature old LSU. During LSU game weeks back in the day, Saban, it was different.
Lock the doors.
It was different. It was a little bit different. I think that probably Ole Miss is getting a little bit of that attention these days, just because.
Don't worry about LSU.
Yeah, no, he's not worried about it. He ain't worried about LSU. I mean, he knew Burrow was going to be a problem, but outside of that, he loved the Ojulari hire, and he was the only conference coach that made any public comments about the way that they fired Les Miles, because he knew his game plan was a copy and paste every single year to beat that buffoon. And he's probably doing the same thing with O. He's probably doing the same thing where you're like, hey, guys, look, we don't have to overthink it. You know what I mean? They're not going to be creative. This year's team's probably the most undisciplined team they've had, and they've been undisciplined under him every single year. They can't figure it out as far as the play calling goes. Let's go beat their ass by 100. So I can go get in front of Quincy Wiggins and go sit down in front of Arch Manning and go sitting down in front of these Louisiana prospects and say again to them for the 8th consecutive year, do you want to come here?
Rings.
Or do you want to do this? And, it's pretty black and white. It's pretty obvious when, that guy goes, oh, my God.
Goodness gracious.
Jesus.
Oh, it must be nice.
Mac Jones
just
just got
6
decapitated.
to 7?
Yeah. What a ball game.
This is very Nick Saban of Bill Belichick to just try to slaughter Tom Brady. He just wants to choke him out. Nick Saban.
Please.
That guy. I'm done. This is cooked.
And look, anybody that is saying that Lane Kiffin is a off the field problem, that's
can't get worse.
That's not true, but it's a lazy take. I mean that you're talking about a decade ago, and you're talking about it hasn't been a problem since then, and a lot of that stuff has cleaned up. And anybody who really makes that reference to me that's a very lazy take. Ball. New England's got it.
That's the most thing said during a football game when you're watching it. Ball.
Hugh Freeze is a name. I see somebody, Cajunnomics, asking about Hugh Freeze.
It's Lane. It has to be. We need a face of a program.
Billy.
Hugh doesn't. I mean, he's kind of laughable after the dentist chair and the Liberty coaching booth. Like, that. What a stunt. That doesn't seem right. LSU needs to you need to drop. What are they going to do with the money? If it turns into this coaching situation, I would imagine they want to bring in their own staff.
$21 million.
This is going to be a bunch of dead money, not only for but for the staff they just brought. They're not going to retain these two coordinator hires. So, I mean, America's running out of money, and now LSU doesn't have any money. Well, how does this work?
Taft can only raise so much.
I have no idea.
Is there somebody that just cuts a check and there's like, honey, I had to save LSU football?
They don't have those conversations at that point. I mean, I think that money's too long. You know what I mean? Whoever's cutting that check is just,
Wait,
but
seriously, how much
I mean,
money
LSU is not, they're not sitting in the lap of luxury that other schools are and asking for that money. You can't keep going back to the well before it gets dried up from private money of keeping things and keeping people on the books. I mean, look, I think that they're behind the scenes. I think there is a lot of moving and shaking on trying to find some reason that you can get rid of Ojulari without paying him. And I think, all you really have to do is just let him live. You know what I mean? Like, he really has.
Don't even tell him.
Yeah, I mean, or you
You're great, dude.
I mean,
Actually, we're
yeah,
good.
absolutely, man. Just keep doing what you're doing because
It's fine.
you are very, by the second are cheapening the way that we're going to get you out of here.
I mean, you could go to Judge Judy and win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just, and I think that's really what's happening. I mean, I think that it's, to be quite honest with you, you want my honest take? I think that Ed Ogeron is cooked. I think that the deal is already done. I think that he is already so far gone that they are moving in the direction of trying to find a replacement. I've said this before. I don't think this is groundbreaking information. I mean, I said this after the UCLA game when the picture surfaced of him, a day before the game out, chasing tail and before the game threatened to beat somebody up because of the color of their shirt. I mean, that was just kind of like, look, man. I mean, this is too much. I mean, it's let him do his thing, and behind the scenes, I think LSU administration is working to find some counterpoints, some people that can run the program, some people that understand that I mean, this is a multi-million-dollar job. This isn't the front page of an Instagram to go pick up blondes. I mean, it's not a pickup line. I mean, I'm the LSU head football coach. I mean, this is a serious gig that, you got to go find somebody that respects the seat first and foremost. And I think that there's been so much disrespect done to the seat that behind the scenes, I mean, they are working to find the guy. They are working to find who's interested, how much it's going to cost, well, getting the money in line. Because, like I said, it's got to be a very seamless move. I mean, it's got to be it can't be rigid. It can't be rough. It can't be, where you leave it open and you're wondering who you're swinging and missing. You're interviewing people. They're telling you no. All that's, you don't have the luxury of doing that with this recruiting class. You don't have the luxury of doing that with timing. You don't have the luxury of trying to compete within the SEC and messing this thing up because it's too fragile of a spot first and foremost, and it's too competitive of a space that if you open the gap too wide, you may never catch up, or it could take you again. I mean, think about it. LSU has just experienced, is still experiencing, probably on the back end here the last year, and what this year is feeling like, the golden age of LSU football. I would point back to 2000, 2001. I would really look back to 2000, the Tennessee game at LSU in overtime where Rohan hit Robert Royal and LSU stormed the field as kind of the coming out party of LSU football. Mile markers along the way: 01 SEC championship, 2000 independent or 2000 Sugar Bowl or 2001 Sugar Bowl versus Illinois. 2003 season SEC championship year, national championship, mile markers along the way to kind of show you where you are. But 2011 playing in the game, 2007 winning the national championship, playing back into it in 2019 and win. I mean, you've been in the golden age of LSU football for the last 20 years, 21 seasons. It feels like you're starting to slide, right? It feels like you're kind of on the other side of the mountain and you're kind of starting to really get back down into the valleys of the Southeastern Conference where teams like Ole Miss and Texas A&M and Arkansas are really kind of starting to become equals and maybe even passing you up to some degree.
It's not even that they're equals. It's like you said, you're sliding down, you're regressing to the mean as opposed to standing above everybody else when you're with the Alabamas, the Georgias, the LSUs. Like, that's where you're so used to being on top of that mountaintop. Now it seems like it's not that they've gotten better. It's just that LSU has slid down to kind of find you're in a fist fight every week because you're looking at a bar full of people that you don't really want to be in a room with.
And you're poorly coached. You know what I mean? You don't have discipline. You don't have you don't really have a vision. You don't know what your motivation is. You don't really believe or trust in your coach. I mean, there's just a lot of questions around the program, and I think to save that, to really recapture that, all hangs on who they hire next and whether you're going to be able to make your way back up the mountaintop and get back into a playoff type atmosphere where you're competing for playoffs and SEC titles every year, or you continue to slide or hold where you are on that mountain and you're just you know, the 80s and 90s of LSU football again.
Especially with the addition of Texas and Oklahoma. Like, it doesn't get easier with those two schools. Like, Rebecca just texted me that she had made a great point. Like, with NIL coming in with Texas and Oklahoma,
Oh, yeah, man.
like,
Yeah.
this thing is not as easy to recruit LSU as it used to be,
Right.
where you could be like, all right, what's the first pitch? SEC, we're the dominant.
Well, and
you
that's-
get to play these games, and now Texas and Oklahoma get to say that same thing.
And that's what we're talking about as far as the pecking order and, you know, the luxury that LSU does not have and what the new SEC and the new rules look like. I mean, we've talked about this a couple of times before, but the team with the most millionaire boosters are going to become relevant. They are, because they're going to ask the coach. They're going to pick up the phone and call the coach. Who are the top 3 recruits that you want, or who's the biggest guy that's on your board? All right, well, I'll put him to work on my payroll, and I'll pay him how much? How much do you need? I need to pay him what? $400,000 a year, $250,000 a year. Whatever the number is, you just tell me, because I get my rocks off, whoever this booster is, of you allowing me access into the program, and I'll cut whatever the check amount is for you to give me that type of approval. Like, that's what the Texas boosters are.
Let me wear a headset for the
That's
first
how
quarter.
that's how the people at Alabama are with Saban. That's how people feel about Kirby Smart in Athens. That's how people feel, or did, you know, before the last 2 weeks, about Jimbo Fisher in College Station. I'd imagine that's how people feel about Sam Pittman in Arkansas. And all of those places I named have deeper pockets than LSU. LSU's got pockets, but they can't compete with those schools as far as the depth of those pockets. And if you want to get into a pissing match, LSU can't really pee. They can't really piss that long. You know what I mean? Like, they can't compete with the money that the boosters at Texas A&M, Arkansas, Alabama, they can't really compete with the checks that those guys are cutting. Not as far as the amount, the
lump sum.
just the individual. We can sit here and do this all day in Texas if you want.
They love it.
You know what I mean?
This is my favorite game
We
to
can
play.
cut. We can cut checks as long as you want. We can stay here all week if you need to. Texas A&M's the same way. Arkansas is the same way. You know what I mean? You get the head of Tyson Chicken or Walmart or Jerry Jones on the phone, and you say we're in a battle with LSU over a recruit out of Dallas. How much y'all need? Well, we're at 300,000 now. You know, the cap may be at $1 million. How about we just pay him $1.1 million right now?
Here's 5.
Just get the deal done. That's what you need. Cool. I gotta go. I gotta get back. I gotta get on this helicopter and get out of here.
Yeah, it can be go eat
You know what
another
I mean?
McDonald's sandwich.
LSU doesn't have that
Salt
guy.
myself to death.
They don't have that guy. You know what I mean? They don't have. They got a few of them, but they don't have the ones.
The money ain't that long.
They don't have the numbers that other schools have, and that's what, you know. I mean, recruiting is about to become. That's what this is about to really work into. Arch Manning, by the time this thing happens, he'll be making $1 million a year, $2 million a year at Alabama when it's all said and done. And people close to this situation say it's Bama by a lot right now, leading
Could
it.
you
Not saying
could you go anywhere else?
So I don't know, man.
Well, there's a little snot on top of your ice cream.
that.
Yeah, LSU lost to Auburn. By the way,
4 more rings.
another Manning is not coming to LSU. He's going to Alabama. All right.
LSU's
show.
not even in the mix.
No,
Yeah,
why
no
would
shot.
you? I mean,
LSU's not even in the
why?
mix.
I mean,
mean-
if there's any like,
And it's not because
recompense-
of the Manning
no, it's
stuff.
not that.
It's because they're looking and saying, we're not wasting our time on this stuff, man.
I mean, if you are Arch Manning, you walked in and saw Joe Burrow. Just actually, if you want to be the guy, you could run the program. You just have to be the guy. You have to be able to do it from 19 years old.
Burrow's scenario was different.
I know, but he came in and he was the head coach. Like, he had the keys to the kingdom. So if you're Arch Manning, maybe you're like, oh, if you're gonna give me free reign around here, I can do it, because that's what happened. Burrow did it by himself with Brady.
Oh, no doubt.
Like, you remember?
I mean, look
them-
at those guys.
Remember them talking about, like, they were having afternoon practices by themselves. Like, that's not scheduled by a coach. That's a player taking complete ownership of a team, and we should have seen it coming.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
Stooped.
I mean, look at those guys.
Slaughtered.
I mean, look at Joe Burrow and Joe Brady compared to Ed Ogeron and LSU football. I mean, who are you betting on?
Burrow every week.
You know what I mean? Like,
awesome.
who are you saying? Okay, but that was probably the guys that made it successful. You know what I mean?
Did you
like,
see his Inside the NFL that dropped
Oh my
today?
gosh.
No.
It was him coming off the sidelines after the game-winning touchdown on Thursday, and he goes, "You're gonna throw zero at fucking me?" Like he's like, "You don't zero blitz me." And the other quarterback came and he's like, "They tried to zero." He's like, "I saw it, dude." It's unbelievable. And he was just like, "Yeah, but fuck them." It was awesome. He owns it, dude. Then he takes the sip from the. I don't know how the ice bottle got colder when he touched it, but it seemed to have. He's just that guy, man. That's all I have to look forward to now. I'm a Bengals fan.
No doubt about it, man.
You see the fact about Trevor Lawrence? It's like his 2 losses, and they're like when he has a 10-point lead, all the losses are to Joe Burrow.
His voice sounds awesome. Just sounds like Tiger Stadium.
Oh,
Jack is toast.
I'm telling you, dude.
I was losing.
I'm telling you, man.
There was at one point I almost ran down to like as far as I could, and I'm like, $7 million, and you can't get John Henry on the field. What is this?
8.5.
I found an old cigarette on the ground. I'm gonna smoke it.
Wait, did y'all see the parade crowd?
My guy last night, the father's son, the father just busting his son's jewel. Give me the jewel again.
That's how you make money in the stadium.
I'm like, this guy don't give a fuck, bro. You don't care, man. I wanted a marshal to walk up like, "Sir, no smoking." You know, be like, "I paid you for these tickets. You go get a manager.
I'm paying for the
That's
buyout.
right. Throw me out." I mean, it was
Pandemonium.
It was epic. I mean, just the
Meltdown.
the melting of this guy. He's got. I mean, his week, his day, he's miserable.
Right, Austin in the chat.
Miserable. Who is this nerd?
I told him he could bet I wasn't going to kick him out because he
is
seems
this
to be
nerd?
going through it right
Yeah,
now.
he is,
Dude, the parade
man.
ground's assaulted. There's no.
Is Austin
anything.
Panamsky? I think Austin is
That's what I said.
Panamsky.
I dropped that.
I think Austin is Panamsky.
Nice to meet you, Derek.
Yes.
Is that picture guy?
Yeah,
picture
that's
guy.
Derek. It is Derek. They've taken all his responsibilities away from him now. I think he just surfs social media and sees who's talking shit about Ogeron and just goes and posts up, man.
God, that's a hard job.
It is.
So it doesn't stop.
It is. It's
Full-time.
tougher than having to tell Ogeron yes at every corner. I
Can we
mean,
call a timeout? Do you have any more?
I mean,
Yes.
think of it was
You can
your
make one.
responsibility to be in charge of Ed Ogeron's public relations, and this is where we are.
I
You know what I
wouldn't
mean?
go to
Like,
work. Dude.
how could you look at your boss and be like, "All right, man, next strategy. What are we thinking here?"
Flip through
You know
this
what I
thing
mean?
and
Like,
got you the job.
that binder got us far, but it doesn't
Out of
say
pages.
That
anything
binder.
about where we are, man. I mean, this is
Flip to
This
section
is,
4 where we don't have a running game. You can't call a play here.
It's just-
all right.
shout out to Kramer Robertson, got called up tonight.
Let's go.
Yes.
Nice.
Got called up. He's driving to St. Louis right now. In fact, let me get I was texting with him earlier, man. Great.
Also, Cam
great
Thomas had
news.
21 points in their preseason game.
Let's
tonight against
go.
the
I mean, we're
Lakers.
not that's
Did they?
look to the other sports.
Did they play? Did they play the big? Did Durant play? I
no,
can't
no,
wait to see them on the floor with Cam.
Well,
get a
not only
bucket.
that, but all of the smoke that's coming out of the Kyrie and
All
the
right, here's
KD
the
stuff
deal.
is
All
wild.
right, Kramer got called up. Kramer got called up tonight. He's driving to St. Louis. He told me, okay, here's what the deal is. He's on a taxi squad, which means you do everything with the team, but you can't play unless somebody gets hurt. He's flying to Los Angeles tomorrow for a one-game playoff on Wednesday. He stays with them until they're done.
Carter's been hot.
So this is, and it also,
But
whatever
call
this
up right
means,
before the playoffs.
whatever this means is that this does not count against one of his 5 options, which he says, thank goodness, and will be great experience for him. I mean, if you've been paying attention to him in AAA,
Yeah.
I mean, he was. I got some stats here that I was following.
I think
and,
one of
I
the-
mean, he was like leading AAA in at bats, runs, hits. His defense had been off the chain over the last couple of months. I mean, it was almost as if like you were like,
How is he
"What's
still
going
down
on?"
here?
You have it out for him, like, "What's going on?" But he finally got the call today. So shout out to
Got to be your top 5 feeling ever.
bro, top 5. I mean, if you're a baseball player, I mean, it's got to
That's
be
the one.
that's the
Greatest.
ultimate. I mean, he's
I was
not
thinking like sex for the first
He's
time.
not married. He doesn't have any kids. Yeah, but I mean, something like that. But I mean, from a professional standpoint, it
No,
probably,
this is the goal.
Probably compares to nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably
to
compares to
walk
nothing.
in and get to see the locker room with the Roberts and all, like
Right.
that's
Dude.
movie stuff. Where
Fly
you're just
private.
Like, yeah, it's like I'm here.
You know what I mean?
And if it's
o-
just for a cup of coffee.
Get off the bus, get out of the motel, start staying in the peninsulas, the Ritz Carltons of the
I
world,
get it
traveling
now.
in private air. just private buses to the best. I mean, he's going to Dodger Stadium. His first stop
Best
is Dodger
stadium.
For a one-game playoff. Like, this is as big as it gets.
His first stops. He's going to Dodger Stadium. I mean, he's going to Chavez Ravine, man. I mean,
See what he palm trees
good
at the
for him,
stadium?
man. In fact, we're going to talk to his mom tomorrow morning at 8:30,
Nice.
and we will talk to her about what some of the some of the challenges of getting this year started, her recruiting, and obviously the great news on
Talk to her about what about clock management? Maybe she
Kramer.
can help us in that regard. You know,
How many
probably
timeouts?
so. Probably so.
they get 6.
God, that's so bad.
I wanted to throw up.
That was so bad. That was the worst out of all of it. You know, I mean, that's
Well, it's just when they happened.
yes.
What was your,
After
did you just
kickoffs.
laugh at first, honestly?
I mean,
I didn't laugh at first. I laughed at the end.
4 of 6 of their timeouts were blown last night.
And you needed them.
Yeah, you did.
It was at their 5th game. What's their record now?
Yeah.
3-2.
Yeah, 3-2.
The 5th game of the season.
3-2. Boutte has 9 touchdowns.
You've blown 4 timeouts on nothing.
Nothing.
On nothing. Like, got nothing. And in fact, out of
For
one of
water.
those timeouts that you blew, you
actually
came out
got
and
worse.
jump off
Yeah.
sides.
It got worse.
And and cost yourself.
How does that happen?
That's some elementary school stuff, man.
You know what we should do? Is after this timeout, we should jump off sides on 4th
Yeah.
and 1.
That is some like elementary school. Like, I mean, I spent the afternoon at a elementary school. Probably that's the stuff you see.
Yeah.
Like, you come out of a timeout, you get like a delay of game
Were y'all
where somebody
listening?
jumps off the sides. Like, fellas,
We just went over it.
eyeballs right here. Everybody look up. Stop playing.
Mouth
Stop
shut, eyes
fidgeting.
up. Yeah.
Stand still. Put your heads up. Look at the coach while he speaks.
Get on a knee.
I mean, this is amazing that you're dealing with this.
Was it on Turner?
It was on. It was on Turner. It was on Turner.
He didn't play another snap after that.
I hope not.
That's just brutal, man. Everything.
We'll be back with you tomorrow morning. Make sure you
You
like
could just play this again.
and share. Make sure you like the post. Make sure you share the post, please. That does a lot for us. Austin, you can dislike it as much as you want, Panamsky. we like it. We like the interaction.
Derek Austin
You
Panamsky.
fucking
You're
nerd.
dying on this hill.
You fucking square.
He's mad at it. This is how you treat somebody with a different opinion? Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually.
Shit opinion.
Actually, you do, buddy. Welcome to the Jordy Culotta Show.
Nice to have you.
DP,
Subscribe.
it's got to be different than Tiger Droppings, the other place you surf, huh?
Yeah, we don't say frick here.
That's right.
Pulmonary on Tiger Drop.
Make sure and like and
Pulmonary.
share, please.
Not pulmonary one.
Make sure and like and share. Comment on it. Tell a friend. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning. Go Chevrolet drives us. Real quick before we get out of here. And this is our friend Lee Carney from Go Chevrolet. Please remember him. Please think about him and his family. His mother was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer over the last month, and she passed away on Thursday. I mean, it was a sudden, quick, and horrible time for him and his family. He is a good friend of mine. I am thinking about him. If you know Lee, if you don't know Lee, pray for him and his family, as he was very close to his mom. It is a very sad time for everybody over at Go Chevrolet and everybody who knows Lee. So he has been great to us. He has supported us since the day that we got here. He is a lifelong friend, and it is a very trying time for him and everybody out there who are with him. So please, I know that is a very somber and sad way to leave this podcast, but he has been and meant so much to what we do over here. We got to tell, and I believe in the power of prayer, that if you're out there and if you just don't mind tonight, just, putting him in your prayers or saying a prayer for him and his family, I know that would be greatly appreciated because they could use that right now. So we appreciate you being out there. We appreciate you supporting and interacting with us. We don't take that lightly. It was great to see everybody out at the game last night. We saw a lot of people who listened to the Jordy Culotta Show, and it was fantastic to feel and see and hear that support, man. That was cool for us, and we appreciate everybody being out there and coming back with us, as we will be back tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. So make sure and like the post, share the post, and tell a friend. We'll be here tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Compliments of Go Chevrolet and everybody else who's bringing you to us. So for Noah, Jack, and Lloyd, Jordy Culotta signing off here on this Sunday night. Thank you for BJ Ojulari and Kayshon Boutte for stopping by in their regular Sunday spot. That had to be a tough spot for them to be talking here.
You could hear it,
just
man.
24 hours after a tough
Dog
and very very tough loss for those guys. So have a good Sunday evening. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning.
Good night, Tiger E.